We've been following the saga of one Mr. Jonathan Manziel, Johnny College Football, who is no longer in the league and has hopes of playing again at some point, of course, if he's not in jail on domestic violence charges. Chris Lewis is a former sports agent, former advisor with the NFL Players Association, and an attorney now with Crane, Lewis, and Brogdon in Dallas. Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. I think this whole Johnny Manziel story is a lesson to up-and-coming athletes to watch, to see how to behave and what not to do with their career and millions of dollars.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think what this is it's a lesson how to destroy your career in about 2 seasons or less. He's, regardless of what happens tomorrow or what happens with the case, his career is completely circling the drain. I think you've probably seen how Nike's pulled endorsements. Drew Rosenhaus doesn't want anything to do with him. So, he's undersized. He's a great athlete, but he was just an absolute PR stud coming out of Texas A&M. And now there's nobody in his corner, and he's really done it all to himself.
Well, a grand jury in Dallas is going to hear the case of domestic violence, which could have bad ramifications for him. Nike, as you mentioned, have dropped him as an endorser, and his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, fired him for all of this off-field behavior. Is that unusual for a sports agent to fire a client who could bring in that much money?
Yeah, undoubtedly. So, what's happened is his first agent was a guy by the name of Eric Burkhart. He knew Eric. They were actually pretty good friends, and he knew Eric when Johnny was at A&M, and he and Eric had some A&M ties and everything, and Eric had been with him by his side. So, the signal number one is Eric doesn't want anything to do with Johnny, still wishes him well, says he needs to get help. You'll recall that his dad comes out and says Johnny needs to get help, or he might not see his 24th birthday. And then Drew Rosenhaus, if you just think about all of the players at Drew Rosenhaus, big personalities, very egotistical people that he's been able to manage their careers, get great deals for, and then all of a sudden he's got Johnny Manziel, and he gives him an ultimatum and says, you got to get help. If not, I'm out. So for an agent to take somebody who was a former first-round draft pick, who he's a fire starter, and he's extremely marketable when things are going well in his life, and to cut bait and do it after less than a month, maybe 2 weeks, then that tells us everything we need to know, and things just are not going very good in Johnny Manziel's life.
Do you think Johnny Manziel even wants to play football anymore? Did he get to the NFL and realize it wasn't going to be as much of a pushover as it was for him in college, and he just thinks, hey, I got these millions of dollars now. I can rest easy for the rest of my life and party and not have to worry about anything?
Yeah, I think he probably still wants to play football, but he doesn't want to play football because he's passionate about football.
He doesn't want to do the work that it would take to be a successful quarterback in the league.
Yeah, he likes the notoriety it brings him. He likes the doors it opens for him. He likes the money that it provides.
The chicks. The chicks are a nice little perk, too.
Absolutely. But whenever you're in a situation where you've got a lot to prove anyway, you're undersized, your game isn't necessarily made for the pro style of offense, and so he's got to do some extra work to become a very good NFL quarterback, and it's not been a priority for him whatsoever. And think about it: when you go from college, especially the NFL, they're paying you a bunch of money, and they're trying to sell you. You are part of the product that these teams and that the NFL as a whole is trying to sell to people and to sell to kids, and he's just somebody that team owners and teams in the NFL doesn't want to sell right now, because he stands for everything that's wrong with athletes who have this sense of entitlement and think that the rules don't apply to them.
Well, and you look at the money he's leaving on the table for his playing career, but also the endorsements that he's losing as a result of that. But you can almost tell. I mean, I've never been a fan of Manziel. I've been here 3 years, and my first year here on the radio in Toledo, Manziel was playing A&M, going up against my Alabama Crimson Tide, and sure, may have been able to beat Alabama, and it may have been a great quarterback at A&M, but just the attitude that he presented, the air around him was too cocky, and some people might be drawn to that, but I thought this guy's going to be trouble. He's not going to take it seriously when he gets to the NFL, and you could kind of see that when he was doing the Johnny Dollar signs as he was picked by the Browns in the 13th round or whatever, 13th pick overall.
Yep. Yeah, I played a little college ball. I don't mind the on-field persona where it's not my style, but I don't mind if a person has an on-the-field persona that they're a little bit cocky, they have a little bit of an edge. You remember how Neon Dion used to be on the field, and now he was the same way off the field, but he always backed it up. If Johnny were a little bit different off the field than he was on the field and had a different persona and took care of his business, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We would say, yeah, if you loved him, you loved him. If you hated him, you hated him. But we'd just be talking about his on-the-field persona. The thing about it is he doesn't draw a distinction between the way he acts on the field and the way he acts off the field. And it might have played well in college, but it just doesn't play well in the NFL. And you're playing against a bunch of other professional athletes. So you're running on a much faster track than what you were running on previously.
Do you think he'll wind up anywhere? Is there a team desperate enough to take him and give him a chance?
No way. Not this year. I think what people want to see is, all right, you see everyone is running from him. And what happens with the grand jury doesn't matter. We haven't even talked about that, but he may not even get indicted. And if he does get indicted, it'll be a long shot for him to get convicted. I don't think that's part of the analysis at all. But right now, with everything that's happened with the Cleveland Browns, with his agent Eric Burkhart, with his agent Drew Rosenhaus, with parents coming out with all the substance abuse. And think about this, if bad news or there's bad publicity comes out, what do normal people do? They try to retract from that. They try to repair their image or at least stay out of the spotlight. He never does that. I mean, he puts on costumes. He still goes to parties. There's bye weeks. He's down in Dallas partying, and he just doesn't shy away from the negative attention. He probably has, and I think from what Rosenhaus has said and his dad has said, I think he's probably got some sort of substance abuse issues he's dealing with that he needs to get straight before a team ever takes a flyer on him.
Yeah, as someone who has had their own substance abuse problems, I see that in him. I just was fortunate enough to be able to work them out myself outside of the scrutiny that somebody like Johnny Manziel is going to get. What do you make of the Browns trading down today? Are you following the teams at all as we get ready for the draft next week?
I typically, I'm one of these. Well, first of all, to answer your questions, no, I didn't see what happened today. But I'm one of these guys that'll sit and watch the draft from start to finish. I just, it's a long and monotonous process, but I just love to see what the teams do and how they try to meet their needs with bartering with other teams. So I didn't see where did they trade down to?
They traded with the Eagles down to I think
down to the 8th spot.
Yeah, and they get 2 other picks.
They got Philly's first-round pick this year at number 8, this year's 3rd and 4th, and next year's 1st and 2nd round pick.
Well, I can tell you the thing that I hate about it is that they're trading with the Eagles. So I'm a lifelong Cowboys fan. So anything that might benefit the Eagles, I absolutely detest. So that's how I feel about it.
You could have Manziel backing up Romo down there.
No, that's true. No, you know what? Romo, I think, gets a little bit of a bad rap. Romo, I think, he comes out of Eastern Illinois. He's a free agent. He did very well. Y'all may know this, he actually broke a lot of Sean Payton's records. Sean Payton was an Eastern Illinois quarterback. He comes down, and, I think he's been fantastic. And he had a couple of flubs earlier in his career, dropping the snap on the kick in that Seahawks game. I think that might have been the year that the Cowboys were 13-3, and there were a lot of things like that, little flubs at the end of games by Tony Romo early in his career. But I would take Tony Romo over 2/3 of the quarterbacks in the NFL.
Man, that Cowboy Kool-Aid goes down smooth, don't it?
Oh, it does. I love it. I love it.
Hey, thanks for taking a few minutes with us, Chris.
All right, thank you guys.
Chris Lewis in Dallas, former sports agent and an attorney with Crane, Lewis, and Brogdon in Dallas. It's 5:40.